So this is what I would do if I was just getting started as a real estate investor. I've been doing this for 8 years, started from absolutely nothing. So I have a lot to say to people who don't have any money, any credit, rich uncle. I didn't have any of those things when I got started as an investor. Fast forward to today, I own $60 million worth of real estate, a little over 450 units, and I got an 8-figure net worth before the age of 30. And I started from nothing. So if I were to get started in real estate today, first thing that I would do is just obsess with the game of real estate. Sounds pretty basic, but this business is a simple one, but it is not an easy one. There is a lot of bumpy road along the way. Tenants are going to give you an absolute headache. If you fix and flip, the end buyers will give you a headache. Contractors will give you a headache. It's determinant on the market in a lot of ways. That could be very stressful. Liquidity can get tight in some scenarios. That can also be very stressful. So you want to obsess with the game of real estate. You really want to learn. There's no excuse in 2026 why you can't get the information that you need to be successful. There's books, there's podcasts, there's the internet. You could hire a mentor. You could go to events. You could go to your local real estate meetup. If you want to learn the game of real estate, you can do that in 2026. That's number one. Number two, the most valuable skill set in all of real estate investing is the ability to find deals. Some would say it's the ability to raise money, but when we're talking about the smaller deals, when you're just starting out, finding the money is really quite easy. It's not until you get into the larger apartment complexes that it takes a little bit more skill. So learn how to find deals. Become an absolute expert at finding, whether that's on the market, straight from the MLS or Zillow. If you know exactly what you're looking for, what location, what type of property, the ARV range that you're looking at, you can actually find a decent amount of deals straight from the MLS. I find probably 40% of my deals today straight from the MLS. So on market is great. Off market's great too. If you can learn how to, basically you want to find distressed deals at a good price. And you're only going to be able to do that if you find signs of motivation. Sellers who have to sell today. Someone who wants to get top dollar for their property, if they have all the time in the world, they're just going to list that property with an agent. They're not going to need you. But if someone just went through a divorce, a death in the family, if someone is about to have a foreclosure, if they're behind on their mortgage, or if they're behind on their taxes, or maybe they're a burnt out landlord, an absentee owner, you can go up to these people and give them a solution. Most of the time, if someone's going through a divorce, they need to sell their property quickly. If someone's about to get foreclosed on, they need to sell their property quickly for cash. These people don't have time to list the property with an agent and just see what the market does. They don't have time for that. Most of these distressed situations are public record. So probate is public record. Being behind on taxes is public record. Pre-foreclosure is public record. Being an absentee owner is public record. So you can go on websites like ListSource. Now there's PropStream, there's Batch Leads, softwares that you can subscribe to. And you can see these lists of sellers that are in these distressed situations, and you can reach out to them. So if you obsess with this one part of real estate, you're going to be very, very successful. Your ability to find the money from there is going to be a lot easier if you get good at finding deals, and everything gets a lot easier. If you can find good deals consistently, you're going to be able to have lump sums of equity in these deals. And whether you rent that deal, wholesale the deal, or flip the deal, you're going to be able to make money if you get good at finding deals. So that's number two. Number one, obsess with the game of real estate. Number two, get really good at finding deals. Number three, get really good at networking. So I am where I am today. I was able to get to $60 million in assets in 8 years because of the trusted relationships that I had. Those relationships allowed me to raise money for my deals. Those relationships allowed me to find deals. If my partners needed someone else to go in with them, if they needed construction management or money or whatever it is, the brokers and wholesalers and investor-friendly agents that I've been able to work with, those have been relationships that have been able to find me deals. So that has been very useful. Also, the lenders that I've worked with, the commercial lenders, the DSCR lenders, the conventional lenders, all of those lenders are a result of networking And then just other investors who are doing bigger and better things than me. You know, that's always been inspirational for me. Probably my number one source of motivation is seeing someone a similar background as me who's doing bigger things than me. You've heard the saying, you are the product of the 5 people that you hang around the most. If you're hanging around people who are just eating Cheetos and watching TV all day, you're probably going to be the 5th person who's eating Cheetos and watching TV all day. But if you're hanging around people who are trying to be better at business, better husband or wife, better friend, they're healthy, they're in the gym, that has probably influenced my life more than anything. And it is a healthy peer pressure to be around those people. So for that reason alone, just networking, bouncing off ideas, being able to talk to more experienced people about what you're struggling through in business, all of those things are invaluable. So networking is a really big piece to this puzzle. So obsessed with the game, learn how to find deals, get really good at networking. The 4th thing that I would say is don't get hung up in not having a lot of money. So get past that philosophy, that barrier in your brain very quickly. You don't need nearly as much money as you think. I started this business when I was 21 years old. I was in college. I had an internship. Like, I wasn't making good money. I didn't have anything going for me. You know, I was a middle class American, engineering school in my fraternity. And I always thought that you needed money to get into real estate. And I quickly found out that there's plenty of solutions for funding your real estate. So there's private money, which is just individuals that you might meet who could give you money for your deals. There's hard money, which are companies, entities that have literally formed to lend money for distressed real estate. So their very existence is to give you money for your deals. As long as your credit is decent and you have some kind of reserves, you could use a line of credit. So right now I have over $1 million in lines of credit because I have, a lot of paid off free and clear real estate that I'm able to, the lenders are able to put a lien on those properties in the first possession and give me a line of credit. But before I had that, I remember my first few deals, I hit up a mortgage broker who was able to help me get credit cards. And I cash advanced those credit cards to get the money that I needed for, down payments and construction overages on some of my properties because I didn't have a job or I didn't have anything. So I got into debt. I used credit cards to finance my deals, and I was able to pay those credit cards back through my refinances because they were good deals that I found. Remember, finding deals is one of the most valuable parts of being a real estate investor. So there's lines of credit, there's private money, there's hard money, and then there's also partnerships. Whatever you don't have, someone else has. So if you're watching this and you have a low credit score, you can partner with someone who has a good credit score. If you're watching this and you have not a lot of money, you can partner with someone with a lot of money. If you're watching this and you're not good at operations, you're not good at managing construction, you're not good at managing property, or you're not really experienced enough and you don't feel comfortable, you can partner with someone with that experience. As I am recording this, I have over 20 different partnerships, and I have right about 30 different LLCs for various partnerships and various businesses. So partnerships are the reason why I am where I am today. You don't have to go crazy like I did and get in as many partnerships as you can to scale as quickly as possible. But obviously, if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to give up 50% of your deals for the sake of growing, it could be such a powerful way to scale your portfolio. And also, the best partnerships are partnering with people who are strong in the areas that you're weak. So you can really catapult your success. If you're a more high-level thinker, you could partner with someone who's more analytical. Or if you're more analytical, you really like the spreadsheets, you can partner with someone who's more, high-level, big-picture thinker and things like that. So partnerships can also be very, very powerful if you have the right kinds of partnerships. So guys, if you focus on those 4 things, you can be successful in real estate. Obsessed with the game of real estate, always be learning, always be taking in the information, all the information that you can. Get really good at finding deals. Finding deals is going to be most lucrative thing that you could possibly learn as a real estate investor. Everything else gets a lot easier when you get good at finding deals. In fact, I was on an app called Clubhouse one time. Clubhouse used to be a much bigger app back in the day, but I was in a room with Grant Cardone. It was a room where, basically a picture of your face is there and you're in an audio room and you could talk to other people in that room virtually. And I was in a room with Grant Cardone and I asked him, what is is the number one skill set, as a real estate investor? What should I be focusing on? And he said without hesitation, finding deals. And this is someone who's raised billions and billions of dollars, and that was his answer. So focus on finding deals. Number 3, get really good at networking. I am where I am today because of the people that I know, partly because of the skill sets I have, but mostly because of the people I know. That's how you're gonna quantum leap your success in finding deals, finding money, building relationships with people who can just catapult your success. And then number 4, lose the mindset, lose the philosophy that you need a lot of your own money to get into real estate. Promise you, I started with nothing. You do not need nearly as much money as you think to get into real estate. So focus on those 4 things. If you're starting from absolutely nothing, you can take those 4 steps. You can start to build success. The hardest deal by far is your first one, because you don't know what you don't know. After you do your first deal, it's a little bit easier to get into your second one, and then a little bit easier to get a third one. And then it really just clicks. I have students, I have mentees who takes them a very long time to get their first few deals, and then they're at 10 or 20 units before you know it. And for reference, for me personally, it took me 5.5 years to get to 93 units to create financial freedom. I had a passive income of $13,000 a month. The very next year, I went from 93 units to a little over 200 units. And then the year after that, I went from a little over 200 units to 450 units. So that compounding success is a real thing. If you see people who own hundreds and hundreds of units or thousands of units, that is extremely impressive, but you're actually probably not quite as far away, I think. But thanks for listening, guys. Go out there and crush it.